YellowTelescope's YellowTelecast, the best practices for the best practices, providing the medical industry's best practices to the medical industry's best practices since 2008. Are you a doctor? Do you work for a doctor? Do you want to earn more, be more efficient, retain your team, hire for success, or just want to have a better lifestyle? I bet you do. What should you expect from the podcast? A lighthearted, casual, fun, hopefully funny, informative, impactful, well-founded look at the medical industry from a pair of impassioned, competent, confident, experienced, talented, questionably good-looking, unquestionably good-looking industry leaders, men of the Renaissance, if you will, and even if you won't, who have hired, trained, and overseen some of the nation's top medical practices while enjoying Scotch whiskey, world travel, music, single malt Scotch whiskey, fine dining, not fine dining, family, art, Ryan bourbon whiskeys, and maintaining an absolutely perfect track record of growing practices by between $100,000 and over $1 million within the first year every damn time. Listen to the podcast, and for more on how YellowTelescope can help grow your practice, visit YellowTelescope.com for upcoming events, published articles, recorded speeches, past issues of our complimentary email newsletter, testimonials, and more.
Welcome. Episode
13.
The YellowTelescope YellowTelecast. Best practices for the best practices. Episode number 13.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18,
Thank you.
19, 20.
Perfect.
20, 30, 40,
I knew
50,
I had
60,
it.
70,
Live in
80,
Miami
90, 100.
over half a decade. Who knew?
Getting good at our Spanish. Well, it's good to be back. It's been a little while.
It's been too long.
We have a tendency to pretty much record a podcast in every city that we visit, that we're in together, but we got so busy the last couple of months. I got to tell you, we were in Boston, didn't record.
Nope.
Did eat a lobster roll at
Yep.
Neptune Oyster, as promised. So
Delicious.
Got to see our friend Dan Fiodor Burns.
Austin, Texas. Nope.
Nope, didn't pull it off. Did get to see a lot of live music, have a great time.
A lot of
Didn't
barbecue.
record.
That's right.
Did
Nope.
go to Dallas.
Dallas.
Didn't record.
Nope. Didn't record there either. No.
We were in Houston as well.
Oh yeah, Houston.
Didn't record
Didn't
there.
record there, yeah.
Enjoyed the Museum of Fine Art. Saw some Rothkos.
Oh yeah, YellowTelecast.
Didn't record.
Oh my goodness.
But we're back here in sunny Miami, and what better place to do it?
That's right. Here we are, recording live. is that a thing? From the fabulous 25th floor, high above South Beach, here at Chateau de Ed, or as they say in French, Chez Ed.
Yes, it really is awesome. We're at Chez Ed.
Welcome to my home, everybody.
Life is good if you're Ed Searing III. That is true. Every night he comes home from a hard 3 or 4 hour day at work at YellowTelescope and SE Oversight, and sits on his balcony. We're looking at about 20 feet of, I think it is literally 60 feet long, this thing. It's just unbelievable.
Blessed. Hashtag blessed.
Hashtag blessed.
That's correct.
So a lot of things are going on. Almario Vernard Chalmers from the great state of Alaska has been traded today to Memphis in a 4-person trade deal. So we got that going on. I think I overpoured there. That's fine.
It's all right.
But lots going on. And this place is great, by the way. Other things going on. We love Ed's home. As you guys know, we call his office the edifice. We call mine the Hoffice.
The Hoffice.
So it really works. It really
Absolutely.
works. But this is the home edifice. And we're excited to be broadcasting from this gorgeous balcony.
I like to refer to it as a stunning vista.
Yeah, as you see out in the distance all around us, we have South Beach, the very, very tip of South Beach first, right behind us. Just got done with our YellowTelescope training seminar, the 5th anniversary event.
Flagship.
Had somewhere in the range of 80 of the finest folks in America flying in from all over the world, from Canada, from California, New York, Texas, I don't know, a million other places to visit us. It was a great event, best one yet. It was at the Ritz-Carlton Key Biscayne.
Fabulous.
Which is basically, if you look through Ed's head, it's just out into the water, past the wall behind us, and it was really, really great. So I had a great time there. I think our best event yet. I think just over 80-85% of people have re-signed up for next year.
Yep.
We're already over 70% sold out for next year's event, so definitely if you're interested in attending, sign up well in advance. We do run early bird specials for signing up in advance, and we do have multi-payment plans to make it affordable even for those guys and gals coming out of residency and fellowship and so on. We can break it into currently 11 easy, no-interest monthly payments.
Couldn't be easier.
End of sales pitch. But we're here to podcast and teach and educate, and what really helps to do that is some scotch. But before that, we usually introduce the topic of the day.
Hierarchy of communication. Just figured I'd cut right to the chase for once. I'm very relaxed here.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. We're in my home. It's very stunning vista. Now, we thought a little bit about what some of the things that we've been encountering in some of the practices that we've been working with, and have had some pretty salient examples of what we think are broader challenges from priorities standpoint that often office administrators / salespeople / patient care coordinators often encounter in their practice. And just part of the nature of running a busy practice anyways is actually having probably more than one human can do in a single day. And so priorities really do become paramount, tantamount to almost anything else. So we thought we'd dive in a little bit about some examples of what we've encountered, and then also some takeaways as to how those how you can better prioritize things within your practice.
Absolutely, and it's coming up in just a minute, and we're really excited about going through what we call the hierarchy of sales communication, the order in which we do things every single day. Before we dive into that topic,
let's digress.
Let's talk a little bit about whiskey.
Now, of course, I would also like to point out that we get lots of I don't know if I'd call it fan mail. It's more more like our fans sent us a letter. But some people say, gosh, that's a lot of talking about whiskey, huh? And then other people are like, not enough talking about whiskey. What else could you possibly be drinking? And we've been a little bit far behind on our podcast, so we thought we'll play catch up with a particularly robust selection.
It's a tasting, Ed. It's to have a tasting, you have to have several. So we put together a nice little selection here of delicious whiskey tastings, and we just follow our heart around here. We like to talk about business, we like to talk about websites, we like to talk about running practices better, we like to talk about whiskey, and so we do. So let's go ahead and dive in. Today we got a very interesting selection for those of you in podcast land and those of you watching on YouTube land. Let's go ahead and start. First of all, our first bottle here is like in a little baby bottle.
It's so boutique-y.
It's funny you mention that. This is actually a private bottling. Private bottling is usually going to refer to a company that purchases barrels from the brands or names we know. Maybe they purchase Macallan or Glenlivet or Glenmorangie or any of the other similar whiskeys, and then they age it themselves in their own barrels. So they might want to put a sherry finish on it or age it with a different age statement than is typically released. And also you find a lot of people buying up older and harder to find whiskeys and then aging them, of course, hoping to sell them for a profit. So the name of this particular private bottler is very hard to find in America. We actually bought this one and shipped it in from England, from the UK.
I love having that import stamp on there, that little UK
correct,
guy.
before the holiday party last year. And this one is called That Boutique Whiskey Company. That's actually what they're called, and we're big fans of it. They've got a sense of humor. They've always got different cartoons on their labels and so on, even though it's very serious whiskey. So it's called That Boutique Whiskey Company. So this is actually, in terms of the distillate, the liquid inside, this is an Altabine, which is ALLT-BHAINNE, which is awesome in a lot of ways.
Clearly.
And this, to my knowledge, is a now defunct distillery or one that you simply can't purchase on the open market that I've ever seen. So they purchased some of this, and there's no age statement, so it's really hard to know what the heck is going on. There's only 304 bottles of it in the world. This is bottle 192. And this is probably a fairly costly bottle. Maybe $100 or something for the little guy, but very good. We did try this one before. I described this bad boy as very interesting and different. It's got a very rich, grainy, grassy flavor that's almost too much for me, and it's rocket fuel at 49% alcohol, so it could use a little water to open it up. And yet it's whiskey, so it's still better than every other alcohol we've ever had. We're drinking it out of the Firefly Moonshine.
That's right.
Ceramic solo cup, non-shot glass.
Yep.
Because this is the closest thing we're drinking today to moonshine.
That is correct.
You know what it tastes like? Pine trees.
Pine trees.
It's got sort of a pine tree flavor to it. Not Lysol, which would be gross, but sort of a good pine tree, but very, very wintry. And it's just a little warm for this, in my opinion.
It's appropriate for fall, but
I'm going to drink all of it, but it's not my favorite.
So,
number 2, I want to introduce both together, and then we'll sip them together and do a taste test.
Yep.
We have 2 very special whiskeys. The first whiskey is a Bunnahabhain, which is an Islay, one of the 8 distilleries in the Islay Islay.
The most German-sounding Scotch.
Yes, Bunnahabhain, which is a little weird for me, but that's okay. And this is a 22-year-old, so again, a private bottling. Even though it's a Bunnahabhain distillate or liquid inside, it's actually rebottled by Exclusive Casks. Exclusive Casks is a company that, again, buys these and then ages them themselves. So usually you're going to see a Bunnahabhain not in a 22-year-old version, but this one is. Also one of 558 bottles of this particular. Also rocket fuel at 49% booze. And this was came out December 10th of 1990 and then was bottled 22 years later. So it's hopefully going to be a little smoother. It does have an age statement. It is an old age statement, so it's going to be good. And you can see, if you guys are in YouTube land, you can see this is a much darker liquor that we're going to be drinking than the one I'm talking about right now, which is the Bunnahabhain. Bunnahabhain you usually think of as a little bit peaty, maybe not the peatiest in Islay, but from the smell doesn't have a nose of peat or smoke.
Darn smooth.
Third, and last but certainly not least, is from Nantucket Island, or as Ed calls it,
the Ack.
The Ack. This is the Notch 12-year-old, and I'm particularly proud to be able to drink this today. First of all, this was a gift for me from one Edward Searing III. Thank you very much, sir.
Indeed. Happy birthday.
An extremely difficult bottle to get. It's only a 12-year-old Scotch, which is plenty, but not extremely old age statement, but made in Nantucket. And this won the San Francisco World Spirits double gold medal. And so what can you tell me about this, Ed?
Well, what they told me at the actual distiller, Cisco Brewery, 888 Distillery there on the island, is they follow obviously the old Scottish traditions, but especially since their topography and the weather patterns are so similar actually on the island of Nantucket as it is to Scotland, they actually are able to produce a similarly flavored whiskey. Now, of course, it's not actually going to be a Scotch, since it's not actually produced in Scotland, but hence the name Notch, not Scotch.
Correct.
And
really, they should just be called here fries.
What?
Well, they're not. If you have them here, they're not French fries.
Oh yeah, freedom fries.
Oh.
That's what we call them.
Correct.
So you've got the Notch. It's a charming place. It's one of the nicest places I've ever been. Close, near and dear to my heart, and couldn't help but bring back what was voted the best non-Scottish single malt whiskey in the world.
Best non-Scottish single malt whiskey in the world.
Yeah.
Outstanding. So
Very
we've got
exciting.
a 12-year-old age statement ranked number 1 on Earth other than Scotland. Then we've got a Scottish whiskey with 22 years of age, private bottled and aged in one of my favorite areas. So they're going to taste probably a little different. I sense that this one's going to have a little bit more of a cherry finish, or maybe a sherry butt finish with the darker hue, but you never know. So shall we try them?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to try the Notch first because it's
little guy here?
delicious. We did try this one before the podcast. It tastes like cherry pie heaven.
Yep. It's got gosh, you can taste the Nantucket red pants.
A little bit of leathery notes. Yeah, it is really exquisite. Let's try this Bunnahabhain.
Shall we? Very special.
Sorry to say it, Ed.
Oh, I know. I
think that the Bunnahabhain.
What they got to do is just keep that notch in the barrel for another decade. Just let it smooth out.
Yeah, the finish of the Bunnahabhain starts off very sweet and rich, and then it actually finishes with also a almost green tree flavor. I don't know how else to describe it. So a lot of tree going on here. I like the finish of the Notch best. I like the nose of all of them, and I can't really tell.
Go back to the...
And the Bunnahabhain, I like the front end. Super delicious for those who care.
Wow. Thank you for indulging us thrice.
So go out and get you some.
Uh-huh.
Bunnahabhain has all kinds of selections you can purchase. It's been featured on the podcast before. This particular bottle, you actually probably can find. I don't know if I got it at Total Wine and More or somewhere else, but they sometimes have some interesting selections. The Notch, good luck. Pick one up if you're in Nantucket, and if you can find someone easier, pay that guy whatever he's asking.
What you got to do is fly JetBlue into Providence, hook on to Cape Air. Thanks again to Captain Joe for the private flight. Head right into the Ack, and then just blow your mind.
In the Altabine also, particularly from the Boutique Whiskey Company, you're going to have to import that bad boy. But some fun selections. And again, we keep it simple. We like to have good taste but not be snobs.
Correct.
And that's why on other podcasts we just pick up a little tasty snifter of something simple. So let's go ahead and educate.
Shall we?
Let's.
This was a partially, we like to look back at some of the recent projects that we worked on with clients around the country.
A lot of recent projects.
A lot of recent projects. Let's see, currently, in the last 3 months, I was counting to giving a talk here in a couple of days and wanted to give some timely information. We've staffed positions in Houston, Charlotte, Toledo, Chicago,
DC,
Baltimore,
and also DC.
Chevy Chase, all within the last 3 months.
Yep, and I think I've been in all of those cities.
I've been in damn near half of them.
Yeah, by the way, had a great time. Love Toledo now.
Yeah.
Had a great time in Chicago. Took the baby to see great grandma.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Went to see a Texans game in Houston with my boy Ed Searing.
Sure did.
Museum of Fine Art in Houston, unbelievable.
Yep.
Hotel Zaza, love it.
Lovely. So stylish.
Man, what else do we do? Boston, again, Neptune Oyster Lobster Rolls. What else do we eat? Some unbelievable dinner the other night. I don't know. It was nonstop.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of our friends. I got to see some good old friends, which was fantastic. Special shout-outs to Dan and Jordan, Randy.
Yeah.
It's been just fantastic.
Hey.
And I've been able to see you in most of them, which has been great as well.
It's been great. I don't get enough of you, ever. So, this is not sarcastic at all. So
I never get enough of you, Ed, okay?
This is really awesome. Hierarchy of communications, sales communications. We realize that office managers have so much to deal with, office administrators, even patient care coordinators have often multiple streams of communication. I mean, at any given moment in your office, you could have somebody in your office asking you a question. You could have the doctor paging you with a question. You could have a patient waiting in the room, waiting for a consultation or an office visit or a follow-up. You could be receiving an email and have phone calls to return. How do you know what to do first? Furthermore, how do you know if there's other things that you could even delegate potentially, if there are other projects that might be taken away from sales? Because, sales is a good word. We believe in it. It's something you do for people, not to people. And particularly when we're building a practice and helping a practice grow, we got to keep sales sort of the main thing.
Right.
And so...
Now, I apologize for interrupting.
No, not at all.
And I agree, there's a lot to do there. Tell me if I'm wrong, but what I'll usually do to kind of organize and get focused is I skip all of it and I just stare at my Facebook feed.
That's the easiest thing to do. It's the path of least resistance.
Ooh,
But,
there's a cat getting tickled.
yeah, which is always great. I could look at it for hours.
Ooh, it's a baby dancing.
Ooh, so many Halloween costumes recently. It was just, I know what everyone's kid in the universe is wearing as a Halloween costume.
The kid went as Curious George this year, the man in the yellow hat.
Ironically, when is the man in the yellow hat?
Carrying the Momo.
Carrying the
That's
Momo.
Spanish for monkey.
That's how adult baby Hendrix Hoffenberg is. Just unbelievable.
He's just crushing.
Like, are you going to go as the monkey? No, I'm going as the supervisor.
He's an anthropologist.
I'm going to be chaperoning this party. Thank you. Have you seen the size of my yellow hat? So, we thought recently about one of the projects in a practice, largely cosmetic practice that we work with, actually was in the need of some staffing. So we thought. And the patient care coordinator just really wasn't working out. Doctor originally hired her. Didn't really turn out to be a fit, especially after some pretty thorough training on our end, and just realized it just wasn't going to click.
Right.
But what we realized was the office administrator had been with the practice for the better part of a decade. Actually had quite a knack for the sales. Really enjoyed working with patients. Really took on to the YellowTelescope processes very
great
quickly.
Attitude, yeah.
Great attitude, and also was an effective administrator and leader within the office, but really didn't love, as you might imagine, a lot of just the minutia that comes with that position. And so we thought critically, originally the project was to restaff the position for the patient care coordinator. But when we sort of stepped back and took a more specific look at actually what everyone's strengths and weaknesses were and what their responsibilities were within the practice, we realized there was probably an opportunity, if she would be willing and if we could negotiate things correctly, to move her into the patient coordinator, office manager hybrid role, but then also take some of the minutia, if you will, that she wasn't particularly fond of off of her plate, delegate that to a part-time assistant who is already an outgoing former receptionist who just, due to her limited schedule, wasn't able to be a part of the team, but still wanted to be. So, in what I've sort of begun to refer to as the office staff shuffle, we were able to...
You can do a little two-step.
It's called the office staff shuffle. We were able to move her into the patient coordinator / office administrator role. And she has truly excelled. It's fantastic. She's made for it. Now, with that said, on my weekly calls with her, one of the things we're constantly revisiting is actually how she's going to handle the volume of work that she's got and prioritizing keeping sales the main thing. And everything else, of course, not necessarily needs to be delegated, but needs to prioritize differently.
So, essentially, instead of replacing the position, you adjusted her role, reorganized, delegated minutia, and are still finding that she's got tons to do.
Correct.
It's interesting, and what I've found fascinating personally is, and I say this probably on other podcasts, there's things that I really enjoy doing and there's things that I really don't enjoy doing, which don't always overlap with what I'm good or bad at. So for example, I might dislike math but be good at it, dislike accounting and be bad at it. I might like playing golf and be bad at it, and I might like sales and be good at it. So you kind of have 4 different kind of permutations that crisscross with those, 2 different things intersecting.
Yeah.
With that said, obviously it starts with understanding what people enjoy, and with this particular individual, it's very clear she enjoyed sales.
Yep.
And what's also interesting to me is, even though personally I like sales and I don't love a lot of daily administration and paperwork, there actually are individuals who really love it.
Right.
For example, nobody becomes an accountant because they don't like numbers, don't like paperwork, don't like email, So even though it's completely counterintuitive to me, the idea that an individual could actually enjoy doing something like that, they love it. And I've realized that from talking to doctors, they look at me like some sort of strange magic unicorn who's like, yeah, no, I like talking to people, doing staffing, filling jobs, and selling all day. And they're like, no, I like cutting bodies open and removing pieces of them and, making them look prettier. I'm like, oh my goodness, that responsibility, that fear. So I think that's one interesting takeaway in general, is understanding that there are people who love to do the work that you have, and you can fill the positions with people who love it. Not that it specifically has to do with our topic today, which is the hierarchy of sales communication, but I like the idea of mentioning that just because it seems to apply generally.
It's so funny because I've never known you to go off on a tangent. It's really...
Which reminds me of a story. Have I ever told you the history of the pine weevil?
The history of cornmeal? It's riveting. Riveting stuff.
So, let's talk a little bit about this hierarchy that you kind of outlined.
So tell me. So let's say you've got all these streams of communication in particular, and in particular from a sales process. How would you prioritize? Because there are certainly intuitive ways to do it. Some people say, well, let me just do whatever is the most recent. Whatever it is. It's the most recent, let's get back to it. Some people would say, whatever.
Most recent email, most recent call,
some people,
it's
the least recent. Whoever's been waiting the longest. Maybe that's
the most highest stacked sticky note.
Yeah.
You just work your way down through the sticky.
I'm cringing.
If you're using a sticky note, stop it.
Stop it. It's enough. Enough of the stickies.
Bad employee. Bad doctor. No stickies. That's why we have interweb. So let's talk a little bit about something specific and tangible you can take back to your practice and implement right away. What we've developed over the years is something extremely, extremely simple that we call the hierarchy of communication, which is a template, an infrastructure, if you will, the bones to the building upon which you can build. That really helps you, whether you're someone like the individual we're speaking about who kind of went from this sort of I do everything role where it's half sales, half management, 1/3 this, 1/3 that, to someone who's more laser focused. So whether you're that practice administrator who's got literally every job under the sun, or whether you're a highly focused, pure patient coordinator who doesn't even do your own pre-ops, doesn't do anything but just hit the phones, hit the email, hit the consultations, and do your work. How do we organize things? Well, what we know is that we need to stay close to the money. And a lot of our podcasts, a lot of what we do in general is all about growing doctors' bottom line, because by growing the bottom line, we create more profitability, and that, of course, does trickle down to the employees in the form of pay raises and better job security and more opportunities and the need for promotions and so forth. Now, don't get me wrong, we believe that patient care is important. We believe that excellent outcomes are important, but we have to assume that everybody listening to this is doing that, is focused on high-quality patient care. Once we say that, and we say, okay, we've got great patient care, and we've got all the little intangible customer service things taken care of, the question is, what is that order of what we should be doing with our week? So I think about a 9 to 5 day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What should I be doing if I have any focus at all? Well, the number one thing that my practice should be doing, which usually means the patient coordinator or the practice manager who's a hybrid and does sales, is number one, patient consultations. Clearly, this is obvious and everybody would do this. The only real caveat, besides saying whenever there's a human being sitting in a room, make sure you go see them, which we all would do anyway, is that you really need to make sure that you're mentally focused on that consultation. I've found that not every day is good. Not every morning is perfect. You got the kid crying and sick. You get in a fight with your boyfriend or girlfriend. something goes wrong with the car, whatever, there's issues, and you don't come in mentally focused. Well, the reality is, in a very busy office, there's not that many consultations that are happening per week if you're closing a good percentage of them. So that particular hour or 30 minutes or whatever you're going to spend in that room with that patient, whether it's 10 minutes in a doctor consultation or 45 minutes in a preparatory exam, that is the most important thing happening in your office. So I think we fundamentally know that, but the question is, are you actually going in your bathroom, looking in the mirror, getting yourself excited, making sure you feel good and confident about how you look and how you feel, and going in and totally giving your attention to that individual in the consultation? It seems silly, but that translates to a higher close percentage.
Maybe you even have your own pump song.
Oh, well, I do.
I know you do.
Sir Lucius Scott, Gator Belts and Petty Melts and Monte Carlos and Eldorados, just waking up out of my slumber feeling like Rollo. It follows. It's showtime at the Apollo, looking like Kiki Shepard. Ho in a leopard print, Teddy Pendergrass. Cooler than Freddie Jackson sipping a milkshake.
I just want to wait till we get to the chorus.
Ain't nobody dope as me. I'm just so fresh, so clean.
So fresh and so clean.
There it is. That's my pump-up song. So yeah, I will play Outkast, So Fresh and So Clean. Because when you meet me, all you think is, hey, that guy must love hip-hop.
Obviously.
Now, I like a little bit of everything.
Hey.
I like the blues, I like the EDM, I like the rock and roll, I love the oldies, love me some Beatles and so forth. But that song just pumps me up, because anytime I listen to it, I say, I am so fresh and so clean.
Right.
And it's hard to go into that console and not have a level of confidence. But that confidence and enthusiasm translates to sales. So the number one thing we're doing every day is treating and caring for patients, and part of that is selling patient surgery with total focus and attention, so they get the best out of us and we get the best out of them. So in terms of how to organize your day, that's easy. We already are seeing those patients when they come in, but are you totally focused? Number two, when those consultations are not happening, which is when the doctor's in surgery, there aren't any consultations scheduled, the next thing I'm thinking about is phone calls.
Yep.
Why phone calls over everything else? Well, these are people who have picked up the phone and dialed us. They've taken time out of their day to say, I care enough in this 2015, 2016 age where pretty much I don't even talk to you live.
Nope.
We just text and then see
Email,
each other physically.
maybe.
But phone is like, dude, hey.
Whoa, come on. Live call? How, is this an emergency?
I mean, what is everything okay?
Seriously, I'm worried.
So we want, if someone picks up the phone and leaves us a message or leaves us a voicemail, to make sure that we're returning that call promptly. We're checking our email to make sure any calls are returned immediately. Pardon me. When that happens, we're now ready for stage 3, and stage 3 is fresh email. And we want to contact every new email that's come into the office, starting with the most recent.
Yep.
Now, yes, every other email spam, and some of the emails aren't urgent patients looking to buy. I just go down the list, but I want to get caught up and reply to every fresh email. For those of you guys who ever emailed YellowTelescope or SE Oversight, inevitably, you're going to get a response within one business day, and inevitably, or almost inevitably, you're going to get it the same day, if not within days, weeks, or days, hours, or minutes. But it's going to happen fast.
Prompt.
We're going to be back to you right away, because it's important to return your fresh email. It's not as important as a phone call. So if you guys call 305-455-0720 and leave a message, we're going to call you back before we respond to your email. But we will respond to your email right away, because he or she who picks up the phone is more important than he or she who sends an email, and he or she who sends an email is more important than everybody else. So reply to that email. So we've now finished our consultations, finished our phone calls, finished our emails.
What could possibly be next?
To do
To-dos.
When are to-dos for, Ed?
Today.
Are they for
sometimes
tomorrow?
they're for yesterday.
To-dos are for today.
That is correct, my friend.
Ed Searing has a picture of himself in a robe with his hair out to here.
Yep.
And it says, I feed on a steady diet of to-dos.
Yes. That's
No
correct.
joke, when Ed Searing was a patient care coordinator and was following up with on average 400 to 500 patients per week for the better part of a year or two with his compadres, Dan and Dean.
Yep.
Who also are probably following up with 400 or 500 patients per week in a very busy practice.
Long follow-ups.
He loved doing follow-ups and tasks so much that we made him eat T-shirts. He had a sign on his door that said, To-do specialist?
To-do specialist. That's correct. Thank you,
So
John Barry, for that.
What
sign.
we define as a to-do is basically any pending task. Now, whether you're entering that in, say, Patient Now, stay tuned for the Yellow Telescope Pathways coming out with Patient Now soon.
The Yellow Telepath?
The Yellow Telepath, or whether you're looking at Next Tech or Advanced MD or Informant Enhance or
Mac Practice,
Integrity
whatever you
EMR
got.
or Mac Practice or whatever it might be, Patient Fusion, any of those systems, they've all got opportunities or abilities to schedule a task for follow-up. So a patient needs to be called in a week. You can schedule it for a week. A patient says, call me in a year, I'll be graduating from my master's degree and I'm ready for surgery then. A patient says, I need to check care credit, call me tomorrow. Whatever it is that you're following up with them for. Hey, I've got to see the other doctor who's going to be doing the co-surgery with me. I need to call AvMed and make sure they're taking my insurance. Any of those things create a task or a follow-up, so you need to be following up with them. So any new patient who you reach out to and doesn't answer, we schedule a new to-do. Any patient who answers and then says, call me back, we schedule it to do. Anybody who's at a consultation, doesn't book on the spot, we schedule it to do. Anybody who has a surgery, want to check in, see how they're feeling, see if they have any testimonials or photos, we schedule it to do. And those to-dos are not hot leads generally. They tend to be sort of your warm to cold leads.
Yeah.
People that are less important than a live consult,
Yep.
less important than a phone call,
Yep.
less important than an email,
Yep.
but more important than everything else. And by following up with hordes of these people, we get a certain number of dominoes to tip and we bring business in the door.
Got it.
So all of those tasks, notice the 4 tasks we've talked about, organizing your entire office's week around, are all related to sales. Consults, then phone, then email, then to-do tasks. And when those to-do tasks get to 0, maybe you've got 10 people to follow up with, or 50 or 100 or 500 like Eddie Money over here. But once you finish those, guess what happens after that?
I couldn't possibly guess.
Everything else.
There it is.
Now, I do understand once a year you may have to complete paperwork for an accreditation because it's happening tomorrow. Yes, you might have to jump on that. Maybe there's a patient who's irate and upset. Well, they're probably on the phone or email, so it works into the hierarchy.
Just brings up the entirely different topic of quadrants and whether it's important and urgent. It's a whole nother topic, but just
True, we'll get to that. Come to the
Yeah.
Yellow Telescope seminar.
Hey.
Learn more about it. But summarily, we need to think about sales first. And sales cures all cancer in a practice. I've jokingly said to darn near everybody, I've never had a practice decrease by $1 million but be very highly organized and get a big hug from the doctor. I have had offices where maybe there were small things that weren't quite organized, but we grew by $1 million and they get a big hug.
Yep.
It's funny how that works.
Often a high five as well.
That's correct.
That's right.
So focus on that hierarchy. So if you're the practice manager and you have other patient coordinators, their whole week should be surrounded by that basic framework. You also should be basing your week around that too. You might say, well, John, I don't do the sales. I have patient coordinators who do them. Well, you should still be meeting with your patient coordinators early in the week to make sure they're prepped. You should be managing and monitoring those tasks to make sure they're completed daily. Because if that doesn't get done, who really cares how pretty the flowers are up front, or how awesome the organization is going, or if you're even getting a bunch of new leads from your website?
Right.
Doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter if you save $200 per implant from Mentor. Doesn't matter, or Allergan for that matter. Doesn't matter. What matters is getting the sales process set up, and then when that gets in line, it's amazing. Time sort of opens up to focus on other things. And what Ed is really talking about with his client is that he basically took away all the other things on her plate to have her focus on her core competency, which was sales, and make sure that she had no excuses not to perform in sales. And now she performed in sales. So tell me, how have the results been? I mean, what has she been up to recently?
I mean, I'm very, very proud of her, and I sort of laugh because it's exactly what we hope for / expect in a very optimistic, not arrogant way.
It's only 100% of our current long-lasting clientele.
She has quadrupled, if not quintupled, their in-office closing ratio.
And what kind of numbers are they? I mean, what were they averaging to begin with? And
They're
where are we
averaging
now?
about 15 to 20% now.
In-office booking.
In-office on the very first visit, the patient goes ahead and signs up and schedules a date for surgery with a deposit. Now averages 75, 80%.
Wow.
Every single week. Some weeks 90, some weeks 60, but on average 75, 80%.
And I'm assuming I'm not trying to lead the conversation, but because actually I'm curious, are consults also up? Are they getting more the last week or 2 or 3 now that she's focused? I assume she has more time to actually make the calls to get people scheduled because she's not doing paperwork and whatever.
Well, it's the total number of consults has come down slightly simply because, year over year at least, because before they would actually see 50 patients in a week and book 8 for surgery. Now they see 20, but they book 16.
Wow.
So it's a very, very different vibe. Now, of course, with all those patients that aren't being seen for consult, she's not just brushing them off; they're being weeded in. So
now, does she have any other tasks? So let's say we talked about it. She gets through the whole hierarchy, A, B, C, D, and E. So like, I'm done with my to-dos. What other things are still on her plate? What other expectations are included there?
Well, part of this practice that she manages is actually part of a greater practice. Of course, it's the cosmetic side of the larger medical practice. And so even to the administrator above her, she was like pulling reports and cataloging the numbers and taking inventory and, preparing, potential marketing piece here and there, looking at social media, managing the staff, looking at timesheets.
Is that stuff she's still doing?
No.
Oh my goodness.
She was doing a lot of this stuff that was then also being given to the new administrative assistant.
Right.
So a lot of that has been delegated. Now, with that at the same time, she's still the sort of face of the leadership within the practice. So she does spend a lot of time now. Actually, she's freed up to see a lot of the patients that weren't even necessarily directly sales. So I think it definitely enhanced patient
following
care.
up with following up with follow-ups.
Following up with old follow-ups.
Yeah. Which does lead to business in most cases.
Yep.
If you've got a patient who had a LASIK surgery, just by chatting with them, a lot of times that leads to, well, not glasses or frames, because, they're 20/20 now. But a lot of times grandma has cataracts.
Yeah.
Or grandma with cataracts sometimes knows somebody wants LASIK. And, these things go back and forth. And I think it's also true, obviously, in any industry, we see it constantly. I was talking with a client in Chicago today, and she had gone in just to pop in and say hello to an old-time Botox patient. Turns into a rhinoplasty consult for 3 weeks from now. Just like that, just by her popping in.
Yep. It's interesting. I mean, our last conversation just recently this past week, we actually spoke a little bit more about how things continue to evolve with her responsibilities and her role. And as she is becoming even more and more focused on sales, and of course we're actually increasing some marketing efforts on their digital marketing to help get them a few more leads now that she's converting so well, I thought, well, hey, you've actually got to think a little bit about what your capacity is. And we talk a lot about increasing capacity. Come to the seminar. And she I basically said, what are the follow-ups you're seeing this week, for example? Do you have to take that 30 minutes of what it probably turns into to see the patient who loves you? She's like, well, they always ask for me. And I'm like, I understand. We'd never want to sacrifice patient care. But if that's it, if your esthetician saw them for, maybe to discuss a post-operative skincare package or something instead of you, do you think that you would be sacrificing any sales at all? She's like, well, probably not, but they asked for me, and I'm like, I understand. Basically, coach her through actually how to have a very, very polite but slightly direct conversation about how really the expert is going to be the esthetician for this type of. So I'll pop in to say hi and give you a big hug. But if you want to talk about a surgery, I'm your gal. But the doctor's really having me work on some bigger projects.
And I think a lot of what we spend our time thinking about, because we get paid to think about these things, and I think in the day-to-day,
my mind's a blank.
Yeah. Well, day-to-day, in the actual practice, you're just going. I mean, and if you're not just going, you're usually licking your wounds because you're not that busy. But if you're a busy practice, you're doing well, you don't have a lot of time to come up with new ideas and to implement new things and so on. And so, for example, one of the things I really believe in is that when you run into a problem in sales, a lot of times you can just actually spend some time thinking about the solution and solve it. So I've had people say the same thing. Well, John, the patient asked for me and they expect to see me, and I don't want to sacrifice patient care. Agree.
Sure.
Well, great, so let's give up? Well, no, let's figure out how we can solve that problem while not sacrificing patient care
exactly.
at all. So, for example, the idea that I learned from Mystery in the Game, if you ever read that book, which is all about dating, which is kind of shady and weird, but it was a whole thing. At
fascinating
one point,
social experiment.
It's a sales book on dating, and we're a dating book on sales in a lot of ways. We talk about the concept of 3 dates. And we're basically creating a system where people go on multiple dates before they make the decision to proceed. We talk about how patients aren't really comfortable kissing the doctor on the first date, which is why we have to have a phone call first and a second date and really get to know them and build a relationship. Well, that book talks a lot about how men and women, when they date one another, oftentimes don't want to kiss on the first date. And so what you can do is create a scenario where there's a greater level of attraction. One of the interesting takeaways from it, and a sales concept, if there ever was one, is it's okay to also provide a false time constraint. It could be a false true time constraint because everything we do here is honest and ethical. But for example, I would say, Ed, how are you? Hey, it is great to see you. How is everything? Are you happy with your results? You look amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really happy. I had a couple of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell you what, I wanted to come in and say hello to you because you're one of my most important patients. I love you to death. I do have a couple of minutes, and I mean literally 2, otherwise the doc's going to kill me. I've got to get a couple other meetings done, but I just heard your name was here today. So what can I answer in just a couple minutes? And otherwise, I'm going to get you over to the esthetician. We can always talk by phone or email if you have any other questions. I have never, ever had someone say, how dare you? The service here is horrible. They don't spend any time. this lady's evil. They say, I understand, you're working, you're busy. And it's all very true. I really have things to do in the other room.
Right.
And by creating some sort of time constraint like that, you're able to kind of get them on your side and still give them enough time where they feel heard and taken care of. Also, notice the level of enthusiasm. Sales is a transference of feeling. It's confidence and enthusiasm.
That's right.
When there's a big pat on the back or a hug, hello, and a hey, we're so great to see you, and you're important to us, all of which are true and genuine, hopefully, then we don't need 20 minutes. We don't need a half hour for them to feel whole. In any case, what I would summarize by saying, at least for me, is that with most of our clients that we work with and most of the conversations I've had, most of the recent problems have really stemmed from a lack of focus and planning, not a lack of talent, skill, or effort. Everybody knows how to do it. They're all good at it, and they're all working hard. It's just that when you're in your office all day, the blinders are on, and you just go in a circle on your racetrack, and you just don't look up until someone blows the whistle or shoots the gun. And what we're here to say is that, yeah, that's all good stuff, but just little things like making sure you organize your week according to the hierarchy of communication, having an annual planning meeting, which you guys should all be having if this is December, if you haven't already, to actually take 4 or 5 or 6 hours off-site. If you want more information, come to the YellowTelescope seminar in October. We put together an unbelievable annual planning session for you and help you to really execute and improve your results for the next year. But those kinds of things are solved by focus and planning, and hopefully this podcast encourages people to do exactly that.
You know, I thought about it recently. It's a lot like driving in Miami traffic.
Slow?
No.
Painful?
Reactionarily. Is that a word?
Reactionarily.
So you're driving you're driving
Yeah,
down driving down the Dolphin, okay? The 826.
The old D-Fin, yeah.
Excuse me, the 836.
The 836.
Or the Palmetto, whatever. You pick your pain.
Did you take the Richard Tuttle Causeway?
Julia Tuttle?
Well, it's the Richard Tuttle's the artist. Julia Tuttle is the Causeway.
Nice.
See, I don't even have. I'm not an original.
I love
15 years. I'm getting it down.
That's perfect. When you're driving in heavy traffic, especially when it is actually moving, and especially when you got the drivers like you do in Miami, if you're looking right in front of you, as you often have to have the blinders on, people are moving, people are stomping on the brakes. But if you're looking way ahead of you, you're actually still gonna. If you're looking 10 car lengths ahead, I think you're still going to be able to actually plan a little bit better, actually be prepared for what's coming ahead of you. So a lot of the way that we talk about, actually focusing up at the very front of the week, if you're looking at the first week of the next few months and seeing how you're planning ahead.
There's also sort of like a consulting / Miami / driving / ophthalmological.
Yes. A couple extra consonants. Reactionarily, ophthalmological.
Analogy, ophthalmological. Say it 5 times fast with me. Ophthalmological.
Boom. That's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've done it. In conclusion, we'd like to do a couple of bits of quick medical news and then do a quick wrap up.
Oh yeah, what do
and
we
then
got
an
here?
outro, and then we'll play the music.
We'll play the music. That's my
warm
favorite
out here,
part.
though. Really warm.
It's tepid. Ooh. That's how I react to fun medical news. Omaha woman bitten by tiger after breaking into zoo. Cops. No joke. This was actually published very recently, here in November. And
do you think security's tight at a zoo?
Or
are they like, you know what? Come on in.
I always wonder, is it mostly keeping people in, or is it keeping people out at the zoo? I know what it is at jail. Like, no one wants to go into the jail, right?
Yeah.
They're keeping people in there.
Yeah, like, does the jail lock its main doors at night, like for you and me to go into the prison? Or they're like, look, if you're dumb enough to come in here when there's no security,
come on in.
You're gonna get shot
sure.
by a.
Stick your finger in the light socket. Sure.
Right. Wild.
I don't know.
Okay, so a lady breaks in.
Lady breaks in. An intoxicated woman was bitten by a tiger.
I'm sure she was intoxicated.
After she broke into a zoo and tried to pet the animal, police said.
Do you think there's ever been a story where it's like, completely sober woman breaks into a zoo and tries to pet a tiger?
I'm not sure.
After a full bottle of Bunnaheim 22, Meredith Smithson from West Orange.
Meredith Smithson from West Orange.
Doesn't that sound right?
Yeah, it does. This was actually Jacqueline Idy, 33, reached into the predator's cage. That's slanted journalism right there.
That's why she broke in, but she was still locked out and still got her hand bit.
It's funny how they literally refer to the tiger as a predator. I refer to the tiger as a sleeping victim.
I mean, What would you do if someone just goes like this to you as you're
I'd
sleeping?
bite you.
I'm petting Ed
I'd
right
probably
now.
bite you, or
You'd be like, "Arr."
I'd be like, shrieking first.
I'm just amazed there's multiple layers, and she broke through both.
My favorite part is
They even had a backup plan to the backup plan to back up the backup plan.
the Facebook post. Incidentally, the tiger involved was said to be, it's alleged, we're not sure, said to be...
He hasn't had a fair trial.
An 18-year-old Malayan tiger called Mai. That's actually what the woman said while she was petting. She was like, Mai. According to the zoo, the incident was still under investigation, but the Omaha police did post to Facebook, quote, just in case you had any doubt, if you pet a tiger, you'll most likely get bitten. So thank you.
It's like the least committal if you didn't know already, most likely, if you pet a tiger.
Potentially.
Yeah, it's sort of like a story, non-story, but I love it. Mm-hmm. It's great.
How about this? Going back to our very early part of the podcast, way back when.
Back in the day of the Great War.
About the dark sense of humor.
Which we've got one.
That's right. Well, the BBC is reporting here, very recent news, an increasingly warped sense of humor could be an early warning sign of impending dementia.
I really love Pulp Fiction and rewatched it again this week, and I'm wondering if that means that I now have dementia.
What was your name again?
I've had a really dark sense of humor since like 11.
Oh, yeah. As soon as I understood what warped sense of humor was, I was like, oh, yeah, let's get dark. No. But here's what they say. They actually had a bunch of questionnaires from friends and family of 48 patients that had revealed many had noticed a change in humor years before. This included laughing inappropriately.
Just to clarify, they're calling this
events.
a medical. 48 random people seem to recall that Bob had a bad attitude towards humor.
It seems anecdotal, but this did appear in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease.
Huh.
From what I recall, which is limited given my dark sense of humor.
Have we been published in that? Can't remember.
Can't remember.
That's not funny.
Have we been published? YellowTelescope. There are very many different types of dementia, and actually frontotemporal dementia is one of the rarer ones.
Frontotemporal dementia. I have frontotemporal something.
Yeah?
Having worked in the hair industry for many years, I have a slight frontotemporal recession.
Yeah, I got slight ones too.
Which I think what you're talking about is not just a frontotemporal recession, here comes a money joke, but a frontotemporal depression. Get it?
Yeah. Is it now? Here's we're gonna go Inception here.
My dad may have had the Great Depression of frontotemporal. Yeah, no. Hair loss jokes. They're not that funny.
The Great Frontotemporal Recession.
Sponsored by Propecia and Rogaine.
So let me ask you this. Let's go Inception here. If you have a dark sense of humor, therefore joke about dementia causing a dark sense of humor causing dementia, therefore are you more likely to have dementia?
Wow.
Sip on that.
You know, it's great when a podcast really, really peaks.
That actually would have been on the 33rd floor. Sorry.
Just we don't have a mic, but we could drop it. Great medical news. Should we do a little updates and wrap it up?
Yeah.
All right, here's what we have upcoming, guys. First of all, if you want to sign up for a complimentary monthly newsletter, please go ahead and follow us or email us at info@yellowtelescope.com or Guardian, Guardian, at seoversite.com, which is SEO
Versite.
VERSITE.
Yep.
Not SIGHT.
So a lot of people actually inadvertently put in a superfluous O and make it SEO oversight.
Yeah, it's only
which to
one
me is
O.
redundant. It just sounds redundant.
It's our own fault. Luckily, we bought every iteration, so it still gets to us anyway. So screw it up all you want. Check out our website, YellowTelescope and SEOversite.com, are chock full of great information. We have past podcasts, newsletters. We're I think our 25th or 27th newsletter just went out.
I believe it's the umpteenth. Yeah.
And lots of great information there to whet your whistle and whet your appetite, both with the WH in front of the ET.
Heavy on the H.
Additionally, we got a bunch of things coming up. First, we have our holiday party around the corner. Excited about that.
Ooh.
None of you are invited
Nope.
except for Ed.
Nope.
None of you. Don't show up.
It's exclusive.
But we are going to come back with a bunch of bee-based scotches because every year we open it. Starting last year, we started a tradition of every year opening a new letter of scotch. So last year we did A, like Altamine.
Yep.
Next year we'll be doing B, like Bunnahyben, Bruichladdich, Ben Romach.
You name it.
There's got to be a bunch more Bs, but we're going to be drinking them all, and then next year will be the Cs and so on. But that's exciting.
Ooh,
actual things coming up, though. Ed here is going to be speaking at the NFO meeting for all the Florida network of otolaryngologists, as
And
well
Florida
as
Society of Facial Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery.
and South Florida ENT. Ed's going to be speaking there. If you want to hear him, go check it out. Coming up in just a week or two. Ed and I will both be heading into the New York Regional Society of Plastic Surgeons. Should be an exciting first-timers event for us.
Yeah.
Excited to be invited and participate in that. Thank you for the invite. We'll also be, for the second time, participating in the ASPS Reboot Camp in March 21st, 22nd in Chicago at the, I think, Lowe's Hotel there. If you're going to be attending that event, it really is, I think, the ASPS's best business event. They do a lot of other events that are bigger, but this one's really all focused on business, so we'll be there speaking a few times.
Yep.
We're also going to be at the ASCRS, which is the ASCRS ASOA meeting May 6th through 10th in New Orleans, Louisiana. Our favorite town on earth, maybe ever. We're just going to crush it.
No
Come
way.
have some great whiskeys with us and some absinthe.
Absinthe! Oi!
I'll be out in D.C., Baltimore, and New York City along with Ed over the next few weeks. We're going to be up there. Look us up and give us a holler. Also, check out some of our new articles coming out. Ed was just published in Modern Medicine, a division of
Cosmetic Surgery Times.
Yeah, Cosmetic Surgery Times.
Thanks
and
for the
Modern,
shout-out.
Fantastic article, and basically he's talking about how to avoid making hiring mistakes. So for those guys not making the best hires, check out Ed's article on that. It's free. Also, my article in AE magazine for the eye guys out there is going to be coming out in January, I hear, which is going to be on the concept of 3 dates.
Ooh.
I'm going to hook you up, single guys. Just kidding. No, it's about selling more surgery. It's going to be great. So in any case, those are just a few things that are coming up. Make sure you follow us. We've got a fairly strong social media following. We are launching. Is it around January 1st?
Yeah.
We are launching January 1st, 2016, our new social media platform. I'm talking, we've got probably the better part of 100 posts ready to go. It is going to be a go-to source for all people in and outside of the medical industry, and basically any small business owner, high-level manager within a small business, and any doctor anywhere out there. If you follow us, you're going to see a lot of content that's very useful and interesting. We're describing it as well curated.
It's well curated. If you actually refer back to the intro of me micro machine style speed talking as sort of the laundry list of interests and things that we like to talk about, a lot of that's going to be in there. So if you like it, great. And if you don't, hey, write us a letter.
Why don't you go F yourself?
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
No.
F
But-
doesn't stand for what you think it does.
It stands for fun. So
So we're going to have a lot of information on there. It's going to be everything about running a medical practice better, interesting articles, things you can repost to your own social media. Because I know doctors and teams are always strapped for ideas and looking for things that are outside of the typical, come in and get 10% off my Obagi skincare this week. Come in and get, try out our new, Oliver Peoples frames, that kind of stuff, which is fine, and you need some of that, but kind of peppering in. So you'll be able to take our posts and retweet them, repost them, engage with them, but also just some good general reading, keep you guys in the know. We'd like to think that we're not Renaissance men or women, but we think between our executive team, we've got, I think, an interesting perspective on the world, and we hope you enjoy it. So there's going to be a lot of posts on medical stuff, running a business better, but also
travel, art, whiskey, timepieces, business,
poker,
investments, possibly you.
portfolios. But yes, all of those things and much, 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 much more. So check it out. It should be a well-curated
At
list.
YellowTelescope, at SE Oversight. Just look it up in your preferred social media. We're thinking about joining Pinterest. We're not there yet. I don't know.
But we do have Google Plus. Make sure you sign up there. We have our LinkedIn profiles, both our personal ones for Ed and John, as well as our SE Oversight Yellow Telescope. We've got our Instagram profiles for SE Oversight and Yellow Telescope. We have our Facebook profiles, and is that it? And Twitter.
Oh yeah.
I think that's mostly the major ones that we're getting involved in. So it's going to be very exciting. We can't wait. It's a big, big goal for 2016, the year of alignment, where we're going to align everything that we love with everything we do for others. It's going to be fantastic. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen,
There's more?
we're redoing both of our websites, SE Oversight and YellowTelescope.com. Stay tuned for the upcoming launch with tons of new content information.
Hotly
it's going to
anticipated.
be sexy. So even though we have to tell all of our clients, hey, I know it's been 2 or 3 or 4 years, and yep, we're telling you have to redo your website. Well, we're doing the same thing and paying the piper, but it's going to be really, really exciting when it's all done. Last, for those of you guys looking for web help, this is very last.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
For those guys looking for web help, we have a new offering. So you guys already know that we have full service SEO
It should have been
oversight.
first. Should have been first.
It should have been, but it isn't. All
right.
So we'll live with those consequences, Ed. You know what?
It's fine,
the
John.
buck stops here.
It's fine. Is it called Light Plus?
It is.
Yes!
So we have our SEO Oversight full service offerings. We're very proud advocates of Real Self and preferred vendors of Real Self, proud advocates of Located.com and preferred vendors of Located.com. We have a lot of fun awards and things we could point to, like being the Miami Entrepreneurs of the Year by the Hype Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce this year.
May I congratulate you again on being one of South Florida Business Journal's 40 under 40?
You may, and thank you.
Congratulations.
I appreciate it. So we know that we offer a really great service. We know that we're a great company and growing. We also know that we can't rest on our laurels and have to keep improving and getting better every single day. To that end, we do have our full service SEO oversight, which is not inexpensive. You're looking at a couple grand a month to work with that particular program, but stay tuned. And you get some stipends towards funny money to pay, so you spend on some of those websites I just mentioned.
Yep.
And that's a great thing if you're really looking for comprehensive help. And you also may be aware that we offer a complimentary free service called SEO Oversight Lite, where we basically serve as the eHarmony, the web matchmaker, if you will, to help you find your online vendors. Maybe you need a new web team, maybe you need a new web designer, maybe you need a match for a live chat or ratings.
Reviews.
Ratings and reviews companies. Maybe you need all that stuff. Well, we found a lot of people would love to have a little more help, but maybe can't quite spend the money on the big help. So we've developed a program after kind of, I would call it beta testing over the last 6 months or so.
Sort of like the Goldilocks version. It's not too much. It's not too little. It's just right.
And that's the thing about all of our programs. It's sort of just right, or just right.
That's
Depends
right.
on who you are.
That's right.
For example, I can eat. I'll eat a whole hamburger. Kid, he'll eat a whole hamburger, but it'll be a smaller hamburger.
I love it.
So the Light Plus program, we're talking $299 a month. We don't know why anyone on earth doesn't have it. You're basically getting a block of hours, 10 or so hours per quarter, to utilize for different services. So you might want us to check to make sure your analytics are good, make sure your web team's doing their job, help out with some sort of hack or virus that occurs, give you feedback on how to get better conversions on your website, improve your email blast, coach your team on social media, do things for your practice. For $299 a month, you're getting a pretty significant chunk of time and really getting the support you need so you can go to bed at night not worrying about your website. So reach out to us about our free services, reach out to us about Light Plus, our new offering, or our more comprehensive services, again, at guardian at fcoversight.com, or generally contact us at info@yellowtelescope.com. We always appreciate your feedback. Email us any suggestions you have for new topics. We're always happy to take that and put it on our next podcast. I don't have much else to say, Ed. What are your thoughts?
What could possibly be else? I love it. It's been comprehensive.
Starting to flow.
He's a good doctor and thorough. It's one of my favorite quotes.
He's a good doctor and thorough.
This has been great, guys. Thanks for joining us in my home. And who knows? Where are we going from next time? I don't know. New York?
I think we could be up in NYC.
Yeah, could happen. We'll see.
If it's nice out, we're going straight to Central Park, and I really want to broadcast from there.
Oh, if it's above 30, it's nice out.
Chicago last week was 70. Toledo the week before was 70, and I was in both. I bring the warm weather with me.
That's it's nice to have you.
I'm warmer than a DoubleTree chocolate cookie.
Warmer than the first greeting of a
welcome
cult leader.
Welcome to the Knights of the Nightingale.
What about this?
That's not even
warmer
good.
Than a cult leader's greeting while handing you a DoubleTree welcome cookie?
While laying on the floor being hugged by a panda bear in front of
a roaring fire. You have to say it that way.
A roaring fire.
A roaring fire. Anyway.
All right, Jill, play the music.